This is a sports catastrophe production. Alright, so welcome to On This Day, and today is January 11th, and on this day, it is the luckiness of NBA not to have a season ended by a lockout. So anyway, the 98-99 NBA lockout was actually the first NBA lockout in history. There were a couple of close calls, especially in 1994, with the NBA having issues with their owners. And the referees and all that, but they fixed that. So anyway, the lockout. Oh, no, sorry, they said it was the third lockout. I guess preseason games, but this is the first one that affected the regular season in history. It happened during July 1st, 1988, and went to January 20th, 1999. January 20th. I think that was when in 95 the NHL went back to work. But anyway, it forced the 99 regular season to have 50 games and the season's All-Star game to be canceled. NBA owners reopened the league's collective bargaining agreement in March of 98, seeking changes to the salary cap system and a ceiling on individual salaries. However, the Players Association opposed it and wanted raises for players who entered the league's minimum salary. The owners locked the players out. There was a lot of criticism and all that. However, on January 6th, they did reach an agreement and all that. The deal was signed later in January, ending the lockout after 204 days. The settlement provided for maximum salaries for players and a pay scale for first-year players. In the months after the lockouts, TV ratings declined, and both remained below pre-lockout levels in subsequent seasons. So basically, the owners wanted to reopen the collective bargaining association because of the salary caps issues. In January 2099, they got a 6-year CBA ratified. Player salaries were actually reduced from 57% to a maximum of 55% of the league's income. All that. Before 1998, there were 2 lockouts in the previous 3 years. A labor dispute that happened in 1995, off-season, and a brief work stoppage in 96 that ended within 3 hours. However, the players and owners reached a deal before this started the season, which meant that no NBA regular season games were affected a lot. And before 1998, the NBA was the only one of the big 4 sports leagues, baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, to actually not have a regular season game lost because of a work stoppage. Baseball's first year of a lockout ruining the season was 1972. Football was 1982, and hockey was 1995. So there was a lot of issues. They wanted the salary cap things. And owners didn't want contracts like Kevin Garnett's contract with the Twin Bowl, 6 years, $21 million a year. They wanted a pay scale. All that. So yeah, there were a lot of issues and all that. The 99 All-Star game was canceled. It was supposed to be in Philadelphia, but then 2002 they got it. So basically there was a lot of hostility and all that. So they finally found that Stern actually thought he needed replacement players, but it failed. So basically, it was a victory for Stern and the owners. The agreement was signed by both parties on January 20th, ending lockout after 204 days. It capped player salaries between $9 to $14 million, I think, a season, depending on how long they played in the NBA. The league became the first major sports organization in the U.S. to limit the salaries of its players. A rookie pay scale was introduced, where salary increases tied to how early a player was selected in the NBA draft. And then they had a luxury tax and all that. And the players were promised that their salaries would equal 55% of league revenues over the agreement's final 3 years. There was a lot of reaction and aftermath. They thought that greed was shown by both sides of the picture, which was like the 95 baseball strike. there were a lot of negativity and all that. They did do a season. The 1999 season began February 5th, 99, which was shortened to 50 games per team as opposed to 82. As a result of the 204-day lockout, 464 regular season games were lost. In addition to the lockout, the NBA's popularity was affected by the second retirement of Michael Jordan after he left after the 98 NBA Finals, who was largely responsible for fan interest. Basically, the average attendance during the shortened season went down by 2%. And ticket sales actually went 2% farther down in the opening months of 99-2000, even though it was a full season. TV ratings dropped for 3 consecutive seasons after the lockout. In the years following the lockout, a higher percentage of players signed contracts worth the maximum amount possible under the cap. Some young players signed shorter contracts, which had more flexibility in team choice and salary. The agreement expired in 2005, and people thought there was another work stoppage. At the same time as the NHL lost its 2005 season because of labor issues. However, they fixed a 6-year CBA in 2005. After the expiration of that CBA, a lockout happened in 2011 and lasted for 5 months, and each team scheduled in the 2011-2012 season was cut by 16 games. So the 1999 season, of course, had been shortened and all that. They did play a season. Michael Jordan, of course, retired. But Michael Jordan actually announced his retirement January 13th, 1999. I did not know that. I thought he retired like in July, summer of 98. While the lockout was still going on. He would actually be part owner of the Wizards and basically decide to play for the Wizards for 2 years, tarnishing his career as a one-team player. The New York Knicks were the second number 8 seed to be a 1 seed. The first one was 94, Denver versus Seattle, but the Knicks took down the number 1 Miami Heat in 99. All that thanks to Allen Houston's bouncing shot with a second left. As of 2020, they are still the only number 8 seed to be in the NBA Finals. The Lakers played their final season at the Great Western Forum, and then they moved to the Staples Center. After that, the Clippers were at Los Angeles Sports Arena, but surprisingly, they moved into Staples Center with the Lakers, even though that the Clippers were really a terrible franchise. Indiana stopped playing at the Market Square Arena, moving to Conseco Fieldhouse. Denver would play their final season at McNichols Sports Arena before that basically got bulldozed over. And Denver got the Pepsi Center for both the NHL and NBA. Miami played their final full season at the Miami Arena, but they had to play a few months of that season, the following season, at the arena because of delays in the American Airlines Arena construction in 2000. The Raptors were moved from the Sky Dome / Maple Leaf Gardens to the Air Canada Center February 21st. The Spurs became the first former ABA team to win a championship, and then the only NBA team of a franchise with a title. The Nets and Pacers have been to the finals without a title, and the Nuggets haven't even been to the NBA Finals. The Hawks had to play in the Georgia Dome for another season before Phillips Arena was ready to go. The Clippers, the pathetic Clippers, actually tied the 1989 Miami Heat for the longest losing streak to start season, 17. All that. However, the New Jersey Nets in 2009 broke that record, losing their first 18 games. And for the first time in 15 seasons, the Bulls missed the playoffs. They would actually be the second defending champion in NBA history at that time to fail to make the playoffs, joining the 1970 Boston Celtics. There are a lot of changes and all that. In the Eastern Conference, surprised as it is, Miami, Indiana, and Orlando all were 33-17. I wonder how Miami got through somehow. They didn't tell, but how it happened. But anyway, Orlando was 4, Denver was number 5, Philly was number 6. Philly was number 6, Milwaukee was number 7, New York was number 8. The Knicks narrowly picked the Charlotte Hornets for that 8th and final conference spot. The Raptors would finish 10th, only 4 back of the Knicks. The worst team was the Bulls, 13-37, which was kind of pathetic, don't you think? In the Western Conference, the San Antonio Spurs were the best team, 37-13. Portland even though they won 35 to the Utah Jazz's 37, actually were second because at that time the two division leaders, when the NBA was a 4-division team, had to be 1-2 in the conference. So Utah slid into the 3 slot. The Lakers were number 4, the Rockets were 5, Kings were 6, Phoenix was 7, Minnesota was 8, winning on a tiebreak over Seattle. The Clippers and Grizzlies. Yes, the Vancouver Grizzlies. You gotta remember, Vancouver still had an NBA team. Vancouver was pathetic, 8-42, and I believe that was the 99 draft that Steve Francis was picked, but Francis refused to play for the Grizzlies, I think. Anyway, the 99 NBA playoffs, the Knicks went from 8th seed all the way to win the Eastern Conference final title. They took down number 1 Miami in 5 games, 3-2. First round was best of 5 before 2003. The Knicks swept the Hawks, who were the 4 seed, and then they took down the 2 seed Indiana Pacers in 6 games, including Larry Johnson's phantom 4-point play. That should not have been a 4-point play. Orlando, number 3, was shocked by Philadelphia in the first round, too. The other Eastern Conference upset. Number 1, San Antonio had no problems, only losing 2 games in the playoffs. 1 to Minnesota in the first round, and 1 to the Knicks in the finals. They swept the Lakers and swept the Trailblazers in the conference semis and finals, respectively, which was amazing. No upsets in the Western Conference. Every team that had home court advantage won in the West, including San Antonio winning the championship. Good news for Raptor fans, as Vince Carter was named Rookie of the Year. Karl Malone would be the MVP. For the Jazz, Defensive Player of the Year was Alonzo Mourning from Miami. The most improved player in 6-man was Darrell Armstrong with the Magic. Coach of the Year, Mike Dunleavy with the Trailblazers. The All-NBA First Team, Tim Duncan, Karl Malone, Alonzo Mourning, Allen Iverson, Jason Kidd. All-Rookie First Team, Vince Carter, Paul Pierce, Jason Williams, Mike Bibby, and Mark Harper. So the 1999 NBA Draft. The 98 draft. The 99 draft. Sorry. Vancouver didn't get the 1 seed. Vancouver lost the lottery to the Bulls, and the Bulls took Elton Brand. Steve Francis was picked by the Grizzlies, but he refused to go to Canada, so they had to trade him to Houston. Baron Davis was picked 3rd by the Charlotte Hornets. That's amazing. Lamar Odom was picked 4th. Jonathan Bender was picked 5th, but then with the Raptors pick, but then he was traded to Indiana for Antonio Davis, which actually was a great trade for the Raptors. Wally Szczerbiak was picked 6th for Minnesota. Rip Hamilton, 7th for Washington. Andre Miller was picked 8th by the Cavs. Sean Marion, 9th by the Suns. And Jason Terry, 10th by the Hawks. Pretty good. Raptors had another first-round pick, but they stupidly took Alexander Radojevic, which was a terrible trade. Speaking of bad picks, the Timberwolves took William Avery from Duke, which turned out to be sucky. Frederick Weiss was picked by the Knicks, 15th overall. Knicks fans will remember that's the guy who got dunked on by Vince Carter in the 2000 Olympics, and basically Weiss never came over. Atlanta picked up an Irish-born power forward by the name of Cal Baldier. Quincy Lewis was picked up by the Jazz. Deion Glover by the Hawks. Kenny Thomas by the Rockets. Tim James by Miami. There were a lot of terrible picks. There weren't really any superstar picks after Andre Kirilenko by the Jazz 24th overall. Except for Canadian Todd McCulloch going to Philadelphia. Kind of like him. But I am partially... Oh, yeah, this was when Manu Ginobili was picked with the second last pick in the draft. Among people who didn't get drafted, but Chris Anderson, the tattooed guy, Raja Bell was from FIU, but Raja Bell was not picked in the draft. He was okay. Jorge Garbajosa was not drafted, but the Raptors picked him up. Maggie Batir from China, Raptors picked him up. Bill Palacio was another one who was undrafted. The Raptors picked him up later on. And basically, yeah. That's all you need to know about the 98-99 NBA season. I'm Trip Diamond. Adieu.